Howdy everyone, and welcome to the Serial Geek TV YouTube channel. My name is James Eatock, and today I present to you the first of two videos that explore a rather unique piece of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles history, a two-part Japanese exclusive cartoon. Back in the mid to late 90s, when the internet was still in its infancy, I frequented a pretty big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles website which was operated as an official website of sorts by the individuals that worked at Mirage Studios. It must have been late 1997, around about Christmas, when I visited the website, only to stumble upon 3 QuickTime clips and images from a then fairly recent two-part exclusive anime produced in Japan featuring the Turtles. I was baffled. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise was pretty much dead in the water by this point in the Western world. The cartoon series, in an attempt to make itself gritty, had lost a lot of the fun that had made the series what it was, and had subsequently come to an end. And the live-action Ninja Turtles The Next Mutations show had been poorly received, though they did cross over with the Power Rangers in an episode that I do need to see at some point in my life. Viewing these anime clips from the two OVAs on the website, I was surprised not only to see that the style adhered to the original animated series, but in some cases, due to the level of craftsmanship, it was a vast improvement on the original. I watched those clips over and over again, but due to the internet being a very different place back then, I never actually sought out the two anime movies because, quite frankly, I thought it would be nigh on impossible to get them. In 2010, whilst talking to longtime supporter of Serial Geek magazine and huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan Takara, I inquired as to whether or not he had the two anime productions. He did, and was kind enough to send them my way. In 2012, I finally sat down one evening to watch them. Serial Geek, the brand itself, specifically celebrates animated cartoons of the 80s, with some late 70s shows thrown in for good measure, so the idea of featuring two animes produced during the mid-90s would normally go against the rules. However, given that we're talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here, I think I can be forgiven for featuring a two-part anime, styled and based on one of the biggest cartoons of the 80s, which itself ran into the 90s. That's my logic anyway. Takara Turtles. As I previously mentioned, by the mid-90s, the popularity of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had waned quite dramatically. This was largely in part due to the success of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, a success which continued to grow exponentially. However, in the Eastern world, specifically Japan, due to the franchise only arriving on its shores a few years earlier, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles brand was still incredibly popular and, most importantly of all, they were still a lean green money-making machine. Japanese toy giant Takara were the distributors of the toy line, and as the American series had come to an end by this point, they needed something specific to promote their two upcoming Japanese exclusive waves of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. This was not the first time Takara found themselves in this type of situation. Back in the 80s, when the Transformers brand limped to an end in America, the toy line itself was still very popular in Japan. In order to continue promotion of their toy line, Takara funded the production of 3 additional and quite lengthy Transformers-based series. With this in mind, Takara worked with TV Tokyo in order to produce 2 animes to specifically promote the 2 waves of Japanese exclusive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. The waves were titled Super Mutation, also known as Super Mutants, and Metal Mutation. These 2 animes were not broadcast on TV and instead produced specifically for VHS, which was always a far more popular route of advertising than it was in the Western world. The fact that these 2 anime productions were created to advertise toys is surprising. In the Western world, especially during the 80s, we were very much used to cartoons being solely created to promote a toy line or product, regardless of the intentions of the talented creatives that worked on them. Eastern cartoons often worked the other way around, in that a toy line would be spawned from a cartoon that had grown in popularity. However, on this occasion, like many of the cartoons featured on this channel, these two exclusive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons were primarily created to sell toys, and with this in mind, they are far guiltier of product placement than any other cartoon of the 80s. Well, except the 3-part Rebirth episode of the Transformers, but that's a video for another time. For now, let us take an in-depth look at these two rather unique anime productions. Mighty Mutations. The story begins in the form of a flashback, briefly detailing the events that have allegedly taken place between the regular animated series and the Japanese anime in an effort to prepare us for the events that follow. The plot of the first anime revolves around the Mutastones, powerful artifacts located in Dimension X that can grant incredible power to an individual, although the power lasts only mere minutes at a time. The Mutastones are detailed in the accompanying manga as being the most concentrated form of mutagen, the ooze that gave the turtles their humanoid forms. This is plausible as the mutagen that transformed them in the first place was given to Shredder by Krang, so it somewhat stands to reason that Dimension X would also house the Mutastones. An impressive underground temple is the first thing we see, revealed to be located in the Kingdom of the Neutrinos, the peace-loving race located in Dimension X, and seen numerous times in the original series. We learn that Krang located one of the Mutastones within the temple, an evil Mutastone to be precise, which imbued Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady with great power. In a somewhat bizarre visual, Shredder is transformed into a large mecha-like dragon, as if his initial appearance in the OVA wasn't bizarre enough. The actions of the villains prompts Chris Moo, a spirit located within one of the good Mutastones, to summon the turtles and grant them the power of the 4 Mutastones that Krang had yet to locate, transforming them into mighty, powerful warriors. The battle between the superpowered forces of good and evil appeared to be at a standstill until the turtles combined their 4 Mutastones. This Saint mutation transformed them into one single, all-powerful ninja turtle named Turtle Saint, who effortlessly defeated the villains. The summary of these events is wonderfully directed, utilising limited animation, as if the story is being told to us in manga form. One of the notable differences is that while all the other characters resemble their original designs, Shredder is vastly different. In the accompanying manga, it was comically explained and illustrated in one panel that in a battle prior to the events of the anime, the turtles destroyed the Shredder's costume, prompting Krang to build him a new one. Once the flashback ends, the introduction sequence begins. Sadly, it is mostly a collection of clips from the 2 anime productions, interspersed with a couple of exclusive pieces of animation. That said, the introduction, much like the original series, is very entertaining, featuring lots of exciting scenes as well as numerous pieces of comedy. In that sense, the anime version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is off to a very good start. The Great Crisis of the Super Turtles. The anime begins out in space with a NASA space shuttle, Endeavour, aboard which the pilot remarks on the continued disappearance of the stars throughout the galaxy. He promptly reports back to Earth, but those in NASA's headquarters question his eyesight. It is clear from the opening moments of a scene in which Krang and Shredder observe the stars disappearing via the large trans-dimensional portal inside the Technodrome that the villains are going to be played for pure comedy, in particular Shredder. Even though he sports an impressive, albeit bizarre new costume, the way in which his movements are animated are over the top and utilise every comedy anime technique. That said, Krang has a ridiculous high-pitched voice that doesn't seem befitting for a warlord of Dimension X. As the scene progresses, we learn that the stars are disappearing due to Krang summoning the appearance of a spirit, the Dark Mu, within the evil Mutastone that he still possesses. The awakening of the Dark Mu, who it should be noted is the opposing spirit of the previously mentioned Chris Mu, will cause the destruction of the Earth. When Krang declares that with the Earth destroyed they shall all spend the rest of their days in Dimension X, Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady are terrified at the thought, which itself is a nice homage to the original series, though the shot is directed in true anime style with the characters both wide-eyed and wide-mouthed. We next see the Turtles in their sewer lair watching April O'Neil report on the disappearing stars. A fantastic piece of directing shows their initial appearance reflected in the television screen, creating a fisheye lens view. Interestingly, as the camera pans across the four turtles, we briefly see in the reflection of the television that Michelangelo is illustrated and coloured in the style of the original Turtles. This immediately draws our eye to the fact that in the anime series, the turtles are coloured with a much brighter shade of green than in the original series, and my partner in crime Dusan Mitrovic pointed out to me a while back that the colours of the turtles here is very similar to the highly popular Konami arcade game. One of the things that startled me most, and maybe this says something about my observations with regards to women in anime, is that April, although beautifully illustrated, is not as buoyant as her American counterpart. Her yellow suit has a far more natural fit to her. During this scene, Chris Moo perks up and informs the turtles of Dark Moo and the power that she possesses. When Michelangelo muses that aliens are responsible, there is a fantastic shot of the other three turtles shouting him down. It is at this point that Splinter, who has been sitting quietly with his eyes closed throughout the scene, declares that the villains wish to destroy the Earth. And to say it's clunky would be a bit of an understatement. The fairy pops up and nobody bats an eyelid, like it's a normal day at the office for the heroes in a half shell. At the beginning of the following scene, above ground, we see a hilarious visual in which there are three individual figure-like imprints in the ground. The camera then pans across and we see Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady looking a little worse for wear. Another nod to the original series shows Shredder speak to Krang via the communicators that they frequently used. Once the turtles appear above ground, the battle lines are drawn. Both sides activate their Mutastones, and just as the battle begins, Splinter informs Chris Moo that the villains are trying to distract them from the awakening of the Dark Moo and leaps into the sewer, closely followed by the fairy-like spirit. April O'Neil runs off in a beautifully animated sequence in order to report the news. For some reason we don't get to see the battle between good and evil take place, and instead are taken to the NASA space shuttle Endeavour in a completely redundant scene which attempts comedy but fails. As a comical Krang grows impatient with the awakening of Dark Moo, we see the transformed Shredder asking for his foot soldiers. Krang replies that the foot soldiers are on a field trip, a gag that is revisited later in the episode with hilarious consequences. The battle between the superpowered heroes and villains, now taking place in a more open area of the city, is filled with big, over-the-top attack moves in which the individuals, in true anime fashion, declare each and every attack as speed lines race past them. The animation throughout the battle is very impressive, with a good use of special effects and direction. As the battle rages on with the villains gaining the upper hand, Krang finally witnesses the form of the Dark Moo taking shape. However, at that moment, Splinter and Chris Moo appear. It's never explained just how the pair went from leaping into the sewer to suddenly appearing in the Technodrome, but we do know that Krang's base of operations is currently on Earth, as it was in numerous seasons of the regular series. But then the second OVA shows it to be in Dimension X. Anyway, in probably the best animation ever afforded to him, Splinter leaps into the air and attacks Krang. In a creepy visual, the small black creature within the Mutastone opens its eyes and the Dark Moo awakens, causing destruction across the globe. We see the Tokyo Tower in Japan fall, the Eiffel Tower in France fall, and comically in China we see the large portrait of Chairman Mao that hangs in Tiananmen Square fall to the ground in what can be perceived as a political statement of sorts. The next disaster we are shown occurs in the wetlands of Florida, where we are treated to a rather unexpected but appropriate cameo appearance from 3 of the 4 punk frogs who made appearances in the original series. However, in one of the most hilarious scenes of the anime, we are then shown a beach in Florida. True to what Krang had previously said, we see the foot soldiers on their field trip enjoying a pleasant breakaway from the Technodrome. The foot soldier preparing the barbecue notices the sky change. We see a waterspout take shape in the distance, and within a split second, the same waterspout hits the beach, sweeping up all of the foot soldiers. The irony that Krang, who allowed them to take the field trip in the first place, is the one to inadvertently ruin it is a great idea. A large tidal wave then strikes New York, engulfing the Statue of Liberty as well as the World Trade Center. In an amusing scene, Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady race towards the Turtles, only to then turn and see the tidal wave heading towards them. The fact that Shredder believes it to be a trick at first is what makes the scene all the more entertaining. Inside the Technodrome, the battle between Krang and Splinter is interrupted by the water rushing in. In one of the funniest pieces of dialogue, Krang remarks to Splinter that he not only trespassed, but he also forgot to shut the door. Splinter then comically apologises to Krang as the Technodrome defies all logic and floats to the surface. In an incredibly cool visual, we see the Ninja Turtles swimming above many of the buildings of New York, even to the point where Raphael comments on it. Though we do have to wonder, how many New Yorkers drowned? April O'Neil arrives in the Channel 6 helicopter, and for the first time we see her sporting a cap, which actually complements the character design very well. Krang then appears, declaring that Dark Moo has finally awakened, and within seconds we see Dark Moo, who resembles an evil and sexier version of Chris Moo. There's a fantastic expositional shot showing the heroes and villains through April's camera lens. Even the movement of the camera is realistic and not just a simple pan. Dark Moo fires a bolt of magic which strikes the already superpowered Shredder. Now this is where it starts to get really weird. A giant-sized claw hand emerges from the water, revealing that Shredder has changed into an even more powerful form, known as Dark Shredder. To give you an idea as to his size, Dark Shredder's head alone is the size of the Technodrome. Even Michelangelo questions the logic of this situation. Dark Shredder is immediately infinitely more powerful than the Turtles and dispatches them with little effort. Once again proving how awesome he is, Splinter holds onto a large bolt of Dark Shredder's magic, causing the waters around him to shift dramatically. Along with the Turtles, Splinter leaps aboard April's helicopter and they observe the Dark Shredder from above. Donatello then comes up with an odd idea in which Dark Shredder pursues them to the point of frustration. Due to his own actions, half of the building comically lands onto Dark Shredder's head, knocking him unconscious, much to Krang's ever-increasing anger. Dark Moo flies off into space in order to destroy the Earth. Splinter commands the Turtles to unite their power and courage. Without much hesitation, the Turtles use the Saint mutation and transform into the Turtle Saint. It is at this point that we realise that this combined power also has a time limit. That said, thus far in this episode, the time limitations do not appear to have been adhered to. Although, as a viewer, returning once more to the Endeavour shuttle fills me with very little joy, the animators have a fun time animating the ship as if it were a character, avoiding both the Dark Moo and the pursuing Turtle Saint. During the initial stages of the battle between the two, we learn that the four Turtles have to work in unison in order to control the actions of the Turtle Saint. Sadly, they are unable to work together, resulting in them being unable to fight back against the power of Dark Moo. This inability to unite is best summed up when one of the Turtles asks how they can unite when they each have different pizza toppings. In a truly anime moment, and something you would never see in the original series, when Dark Moo is physically restrained by Chris Moo, her boobs bounce for a few frames. Chris Moo announces that she will sacrifice herself in order to prevent Dark Moo's destruction of the Earth. Splinter speaks to the Turtles telepathically and reminds them to unify their hearts in order to execute the final hidden technique. Sure enough, they unite their hearts and unleash the big finishing move, wonderfully titled Mega Final Saint Blade.
Mega Final Saint Blade!
Unexpectedly, the sound effect emitted by the blast of power is the exact same sound effect used for the proton streams in Ghostbusters, which is also preceded by a lightsaber ignition sound effect from Star Wars. And with that, Dark Moo and Chris Moo are imprisoned within their respective Mutastones and left to drift in space. The Turtles find themselves back in their normal forms, having been picked up in space by the Endeavour shuttle. As the ship heads back to Earth, the Turtles comment that they can no longer mutate into their other superpowered selves. Thus ends the first of the two animes, and it's safe to say that one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy line has been successfully advertised in a thoroughly entertaining way. And that's it for part 1, be sure to come back for part 2. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.